Beyond and hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Dornbush and this is IGN's weekly PlayStation Show podcast Beyond, episode 598. We are so close to episode 600. My name, of course, as I mentioned, is Jonathan Dornbush. I'm joined this week by Brian Altano.
Beyond.
Max Scoville.
Happy to be here on time for once.
I know, it's amazing.
Or just here in general, it's good.
We're happy to have you here.
A few minutes late.
It's fine, just let him have this one.
I didn't show up like in the middle of the show and had to sit in the corner seat like a bad kid.
That's true. Yeah.
That's the punishment seat.
You were late from the beginning this time.
Yeah, we were all late together.
We're also, of course, joined this week by Lucy O'Brien, right, Lucy?
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad you'll be here for the full episode.
Sorry, I've got a phone call.
There's nothing on the screen.
Hello?
You're doing it over the headphones. Lucy.
Hi.
For the audio listener, she's leaving the room. Okay, maybe she won't be on this episode for the full time.
Oi.
Thanks so much for being here, Lucy. Anyway, we have a pretty packed show, even though it's a bit of a light time for PlayStation. And I actually have the jingles back and whatnot.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to make sure things play correctly, but it's time for News Crunch, and I found a version of the News Crunch jingle Ronnie made for me that I have not played on the show before.
What?
I'm going to play
Like
it.
a B-side?
Wait, we have a world exclusive
World
debut?
exclusive
World premiere.
of a new News Crunch jingle.
Let's hear it.
That I think Ronnie made like 3 months ago.
That is a juicy apple. Goodness.
What the hell is that?
So, of course, News Crunch began
What?
As we were talking about the crunch of an apple
Yeah.
on the show. So Ronnie found that bit of audio.
Who is that?
That is a juicy apple. Goodness.
I don't know.
Is that
that
is that Ryan Clements?
Ooh, it might be actually.
Legendary
that might
podcast
be.
Beyond host Ryan
I'm
Clements.
going to do it one more time.
That is a juicy apple. Goodness.
I don't know if it is, but it does sound like him.
Because I was on an episode of the show way back in the day where I swear Andrew Goldfarb ate an apple.
And then everyone hated
Yeah,
it.
And
well,
I was like, that's the worst thing to do in a podcast.
Yeah.
That's basically how News Crunch has began. That was like
Wow.
the auspices of it. So yeah, maybe that was. I'll have to check with Ronnie.
Wow.
Who we may hear from later in the show.
Yeah.
But before we do, we have a bit of a just random various news going on that I wanted to bring up.
You know how much hard-hitting news there is when we play the intro three times and then discuss whose voice it is.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a really busy time for PlayStation. Most of the stuff I have to discuss this week is third-party related. Some things, of course, thank you to everyone who wrote in questions both to the email and to me on Twitter. We'll get to those later. But in terms of news going on since the July 4th weekend here in the States, it's not been a ton. One thing I wanted to bring up, Borderlands 3 has new competitive multiplayer modes and an Apex Legends-style ping system. They basically released this whole brand new press release of all these additions they're bringing to Borderlands. They've continued to show that they're going to have a full suite of accessibility options, which is great. That'll include the ability to remap controls, also include support for the Xbox adaptive controller so people can use that. More accessibility options will be in there. They're introducing a 1v1v1v1 mode that is free-for-all dueling.
What?
So yeah, it's called the first free-for-all dueling mode, which will allow players to opt into this competitive multiplayer experience. We didn't get too much more information on that, but they also will have some Discord integration as well as additions to its EchoCast Twitch extension.
Have you guys noticed that they recently people have come up with really ridiculous names for stuff like 4-player multiplayer?
1v1v1v1.
Yeah, we have a 4-person battle royal mode.
This is the same company that made the pre-sequel.
That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of on brand.
Silly names are kind of in the DNA of this franchise. But yeah, it seems like we're going to just be getting a lot of small Borderlands updates. I wanted to mostly bring this up to tout. We have a really big feature. I think it's currently at 99 Borderlands 3 details we've learned since that game was announced.
Wow.
Colin Stevens, one of our intrepid freelance writers, has basically been putting all of that together and compiling every new little thing we get as big new news updates hit, so be sure to check that out on the site for everything we kind of know about Borderlands 3 so far, which comes out in September, so that's pretty close. Moving on from that, I also want to mention in terms of other updates, this is for a game that's already out. Dauntless is getting challenging trials and new rewards in a big new free update. I believe it's called the Fortune and Glory update. Casey DeFreitas on our team spoke to the developers about this huge update. She has a huge in-depth look at what this is bringing to the game, these new difficulties that they're introducing for new trials and all these things. So if you are playing that Monster Hunter-esque game, she also talks to them a bit about what they're going to do when Monster Hunter Iceborne comes out. And one of the devs jokes, probably take a week off. Like, we're not going to try to compete with that.
No, that's awesome.
I mean, respect to that for being like, hey,
Yeah, I totally appreciate that. But yeah, Dauntless has been seeing a lot of success since it came out. It's free to play with monetization in there, and they talk a little bit about that. They're adding new cosmetics and things like that. So definitely check out Casey's full report. None of us here, I would say, are probably Dauntless experts, but I wanted to tout that piece as she put a lot of work into it. One of the smaller news stories that came up today, though, I wanted to point out, I think it's an amusing one we could talk about. No Man's Sky's creator, Sean Murray, talked about why Anthem and Fallout 76 devs should stay silent.
Ooh.
So this was originally reported by Games Radar. Murray spoke during the keynote panel at 2019's Develop Conference in Brighton in the UK, and discussed why the philosophy they took with No Man's Sky, where they kind of stayed quiet after its release in 2016. Murray said, "We went about 2 years without talking to press at all, and we went about 3 months without saying anything to the community either. That was really hard. I sat down so many times and wrote the perfect blog post that was going to explain everything about the game's development and the roadmap going ahead, but I could see that it didn't hold credibility with regards to where we were at. Totally lost breath at the end of that.
Actually, I didn't notice because you lost breath in like a perfect.
At the perfect, I was getting really choked up.
Nice work.
He then went on to say there have been a number of games that have since come out, had a polarizing launch, and that explosive mix of loads of people playing it, but also problems. So he continued and he said, I can see EA, Microsoft, or Bethesda try to placate players by just talking to them, but for right or wrong, it just doesn't really work. You see this all the time when a big publisher will talk to the community and try to solve the problem, and then get embroiled, taking up more and more of its headspace.
Yeah, man, that's a very difficult situation. For one, I don't necessarily. I think we're sort of retrofitting their approach to silence as a philosophy, as he called it, and from what I remember reading and experiencing, that seemed like it was more like they were quiet out of fear and shame, and also
that was a blackout. That was
And I think a lot of people were angry at them, and in many ways justifiably, because they had promised something they didn't deliver on. There was a lot of conversations happening around then, but at the same time, I think that like if you are a Bethesda or an EA, you are much larger than the Hello Games, and you basically don't really have that option. I think if you're an indie studio, you can kind of put your head in the sand and lay low for a while and hope that the situation blows over. But when you're a major AAA dev, you have a lot more in play. You have a potentially irreparable damage to a franchise. Like No Man's Sky was one of those things that could have potentially gone away forever. And I don't think it would have been bad, right? But I think like Fallout is not something you can just go quiet on for a long time. Like people have tattoos of that. That is a huge brand. And so I think that's sort of easy for him to say from his position, but it does, I think, offer an interesting perspective in terms of like, how do you handle a situation like this, which I would describe as sort of a debacle across all three of those games.
Yeah, there's no like easy answer for it.
No, I think that there's definitely something to be said for not letting every little sort of angry comment get to you, and also for kind of shutting up until you have something of worth to say.
Yeah.
And also, like, if you say, hey, we promise it's going to be great, or hey, we just, it'll be done when it's ready, like that kind of thing it's just words.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people really do get kind of worn out on, having smoke blown up their ass and hoping that they're going to get like, hoping that things are going to be remedied in writing or in text or
no, totally
what's being said. But I think there's a little bit of a difference to just completely go silent, which just feels like, did you take the money and run? Like what's the story there?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
I thought that the Fallout 76 stuff is definitely like kind of sleazy. I wasn't really wild about following that game at launch. I had a weird amount of fun with it in spite of knowing exactly how busted it was. And then it was good that Bethesda came out and was like, hey, here's a bunch of free stuff for you. But at the same time, it was, I don't know, did they? I don't know if they waited the right amount of time for that. It was weird entirely that EA had like nothing to say about Anthem.
Yeah, Anthem's been a weird one because I've been following the Anthem subreddit basically since it launched. Because obviously when it first launched, there was a lot of talk about, hey, they need to change X, Y, and Z about the loot drops, and this feels like a lack of content in X, Y, Z. And they had this roadmap at launch of what they were going to do, especially with the big event they were leading toward, the Cataclysm, which has been delayed from its originally intended launch. But it's one of those things where they've pretty much been radio silent. Like they've been taking a bit more of that approach in recent time, especially with E3. They just weren't there, really.
I mean, it's sort of bad form if you got this thing that a bunch of people worked on and you say on your big public account, "Hi, we've heard your complaints and we hear you and we're working on it," because then people go, "What are the complaints?" Assuming they're not totally, finger on the pulse of that kind of thing. And there's this whole thing where if you make a fuss about something on the internet, it makes more of a fuss and people pay more attention to it. So if there's things wrong with your game and you acknowledge that there's things wrong with your games, you're effectively doing damage to your own brand. But if you don't talk to your community directly, you're ignoring your community. So it's
that's a really interesting point, because it's sort of, I mean, we're all, we say this all the time on the show. We're all very head down on this. If you listen to the show, if you're on the show, whatever, if you check IGN, get video game content. Yeah, never been there. Yeah. You're a hardcore video game nerd, and when you hear about these problems first. But I wonder what Johnny Casual thinks when he walks into a store and he buys Anthem and he goes home and he plays it and it's like, oh, it's pretty cool, I'll get back to it eventually. And then he comes back 6 months later and he's like, wow, there's more content. I think it's hard to service that audience specifically, and in fact I would not even worry about them too much. The reason I think it would be nefarious and rather duplicitous for Bethesda and EA to come out and not say anything is because these are games that were sold and hinged specifically on season passes. These are things that they got like $100 from you on day one, and to just go quiet after that sucks. That sucks for consumers. That sucks for anybody who spent $100 on a video game. That's a lot of goddamn money. And to just come out and not say anything, and I know people had their fun with both of those games. I completely respect that. I understand that. You're entitled to that. If you got your money's worth, go for it. That's great. But I think the mass conversation around those things were they did not pan out in the way they were supposed to. Whereas No Man's Sky felt a little bit more singular, a little bit more self-contained. I think it was sort of disappointing on day one, not necessarily in its lack of a future, but sort of what it lacked the ability to do based on its promises right out the box. And that's tough.
This feels like the weird inverse of the argument surrounding on-disc DLC. Remember that whole thing where you'd get a disc and they'd be like, oh, you pay money and you unlock a thing that's already on here. In this case, it's like the thing isn't anywhere. It's just out there in the cloud. It maybe exists, maybe it doesn't, but they're like, here's the roadmap, here's the long tail for this. Or when a Kickstarter's like, we're going to put this game on 3DS, and then it's 8 years later, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Where is that?
It's weird. It's weird buying into any sort of ongoing media nowadays, because, I mean, everybody wants to make this sort of forever game, right? This thing that Desert Island game, which ironically has no Wi-Fi and needs it requires a constant internet connection. I'm always I'm really into TV, and I'm always wary to jump in on something that isn't confirmed to be getting a second season. And it was weird. I started watching that show Dead to Me, and on Netflix underneath the logo it said now getting a second season.
Yeah, they do that a lot now too.
Yeah,
let you know.
Don't be scared.
Yeah.
This is here for a while. We're making more of it. It's successful enough to quantify continuing future support. And with video games, you don't actually always know that. And so you might see sales numbers at the beginning, but with something like Anthem, you would expect that's sort of if they build it, they will come, or whatever the hell, that whole stupid thing. Because with Anthem, it did okay out the jump, not great. Not by any means, definitely not with the investment they put into it. But that's one of those games where if you look at Destiny, the long tail on that stuff like that, people jumped in that game late because they were like, oh, I'm buying into something that's been A, going on for a while, and B, will continue to go on. And for Anthem, I don't see any reason to walk into a store and buy that game today.
Oh, no, I don't think there is. I mean, it is going to be really interesting what that game looks like in 6 months because BioWare is in a different place that Bungie was, because Bungie as a company and previously working with Activision now on its own is all in on Destiny as their thing, whereas BioWare, of course, has other projects in development. They're working on a Dragon Age and who knows what else maybe.
Well, I think what's got to be pretty terrifying for anybody at BioWare or EA is that you're about to ship this game that is very clearly a Destiny-like or Destiny killer or whatever you want to call it, clone, I don't know, but it's that kind of game. And just before it's about to come out, after it's been kind of in the whole marketing cycle, Activision kind of pipes up and they go, we had a good time with Destiny, but they can have it. And it's that's a company that they love money. They love lots and lots of money, and they're not about to willingly let something go if it's not printing the amount of cash that they want.
Yep.
And meanwhile for Bungie to turn around and be like, oh, we're going free to play, and we really don't want to dial in on what the community wants. Like that's got to be like, oh.
It's funny that I feel like every company wanted to chase the tail of Destiny when it first came out, or even before it came out, and now they're all finally putting out those games that they were making to do that. And it's like, we're a little, like, obviously development takes time, so it's understandable. But it's funny to chase that tail, and that tail seems to have died off a little bit.
Meanwhile, you see, I don't know, the rise of like battle royale stuff, and people are like, I don't have time to sink all this money into this like grind. Like I need something that's like a quick turnaround. Like give me the Snapchat of video games where I get dropped onto an island and I'm dead in 15 minutes and I move on with my day.
And on the flip side, No Man's Sky didn't try to capitalize on that entire genre or movement, and instead made something that was disappointing at the start, was very, very often, refunded, but then ultimately went on to be like a big hit game that I think the word of mouth and the sort of like mantra over has swayed to something more positive since then. That was this go-to like sort of whipping boy, punching bag, black sheep, if you will, of that is the ultimate video game disappointment. One of those things that everybody wanted, but then there was this. Like that became a metaphor of sort of like they're working on this, but it could be a No Man's Sky.
Which sucks because like I feel like they went in and they fixed it, or they made
did.
it.
But it took a long time.
Yeah. Like if you look at the discussion around that game right now, it's they've added so much. It is such a fully featured game. There's such a dedicated audience for it, and now they're adding the whole game is VR. Like they are continuing to build.
That's
on
insane.
This. It's like
I remember hoping that was going to be a VR game when it was like first revealed. I'm like, this could be VR.
Well, there was that Sean Murray quote a couple weeks back, right, where he was like, "We didn't know it was going to be this big," which is, I guess, like one of those interesting. Again, like the difference between an indie game and a AAA dev and an indie dev. It's the same thing where like we here at IGN, we have a perception that we are much larger than we actually are. And so when we screw up, that is magnified, and as it should be, because we're big and we're everywhere. But when like a small outlet or host or whatever it is does something like that, it's sort of like we accept it a little bit better because it's the mistakes of like a small group. And I completely understand that, but it is good to see them sort of spin things around a little bit. But yeah, that was a sort of pretty disappointing game for a lot of people at launch.
It's interesting to see some of these games facing similar issues take both similar but also different approaches. Obviously, like you were saying, you compare what Hello Games is to BioWare within the framework of EA.
Yeah.
And it's a demonstrably different situation. I think, if my memory's not failing me, No Man's Sky was revealed during that weird VGX Awards year where it was like Joel McHale on a couch in a studio with Jeff Keighley or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was the reveal of that game.
Oh, wow.
Compared to, Anthem, which is the marquee teaser announcement at the end of an EA conference that EA played 2 years ago.
Right. It's also that, Hello Games doesn't necessarily have a booth at E3. They don't have a live show presence. They don't have a press conference. They don't have any of those things. And so when
they were the studio that made Joe Danger,
yeah,
and their like basement flooded, and they lost a bunch of stuff for Joe Danger or something. Wasn't that a
thing? Yeah, and then they figured out impossible maths and made Infinite Worlds.
Exactly. Whereas EA, and obviously like there's a lot of people are angry at them for a lot of stuff right now, and have been for quite a while. And again, much of it is justifiable.
You know how much water it would take to flood EA?
Yeah, a lot.
That's like a lot of different places, a lot of studios and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
you'd have to have like a day after tomorrow kind of scenario.
No, that would be like a Noah's Ark situation.
Yeah,
where I think
that's like the same story. Really.
Do you think they'd still get worse company in America?
No, I'm thinking of 2012.
Day After Tomorrow and Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
No, Day After Tomorrow is the one where they run away from ice.
I'm going to put this on record and still say that I think Comcast is a worse company than EA, even though EA wins that contest every year. Just gonna put that out there. Comcast sucks.
FIFA's pretty fun.
Yeah, but EA rolled into E3 and were pretty quiet about Anthem. Their first big place to talk about it. Like Hello Games, Sean Murray, he could hide and did hide for a while because it wasn't like, hey, you're hosting a Nintendo Direct or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you got to get on stage and talk to the fans. He didn't have any situation like that. EA had an opportunity to come out and they mumbled some Anthem stuff, and they were kind of like, "Oh, this work is happening."
Well, they have to say like, "Hey, we're showing Anthem in a big way," and then blog posts after of like the Cataclysm has been shifted schedule-wise and things like that. It is a much different situation that they're under. And again, like I don't know if there is no right or wrong answer. Like these situations are, especially with No Man's Sky, like Hello Games didn't have that company did it right before, we should just copy that. These are weird anomalies of situations to be in as companies. So
and it's something we're going to continue to see as more people swing for this games as a service, games for everything.
Also, there's no right way to really handle like PR or social media in 2019. It's a constantly sort of moving target.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with Sean Murray about going like totally silent. He probably could have benefited from sort of like saying less in advance, as opposed to saying nothing afterwards. But I do definitely applaud him for just, getting off of Twitter and making a game.
Yeah.
Instead of just running his mouth.
And that's what they did, and it's been working so far.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens to those other games in the future.
One last note is that we've been talking to devs for years at this job, and a lot of them are not necessarily trained up on what it's like to have a big, loud group of people angry at them. And there is that mental health aspect of sort of like they're creative people. And again, this does not justify shipping a broken product. I think the consumer is entitled to their money in a situation like that. But I do know that a lot of people are not trained for that because they're quiet, head down in these dark studios with brightly lit computer screens, and then their art goes out into the wild and it is either cherished or torn apart, and that reaction affects people differently. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not saying be mindful of it, but just that is definitely a part of the conversation.
Absolutely. Anyway, moving on from that, a couple other brief news stories I wanted to bring up very briefly because it's currently my game of 2019, even though it came out last year. The final leg of Assassin's Creed Odyssey's Fate of Atlantis DLC, called Judgment of Atlantis, that's the name, comes out July 16th. So that is 7 days from now, which is great. That DLC has been really cool, introducing new areas, going a little bit further into the supernatural, the afterlife and the world of Greek myth, which is super exciting, especially knowing that studio is going to go on to make Gods and Monsters,
right?
Which looks really cool, and we haven't seen too much of, but hopefully that's a fun little adventure there.
That seems like such a fun romp after.
Oh yeah,
right.
I like that they just threw the entire rule book for Assassin's Creed out the window.
Yeah. Between Origins and Odyssey, it's just we're just going.
What do you fight like big like Greek monsters and stuff
in Odyssey?
Yeah.
Spoilers.
In the DLC?
But in the base game, you can find out in the world, again, spoilers, you can find not a Pegasus, but you can find a Cyclops.
Okay.
You can hang from the statue's Pengus.
You can do that. You can fight Medusa, basically.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
And then in the DLC, you're talking to Hades.
Okay, so like I don't think maybe that's a spoiler. I think it's kind of like more just that's exciting that they've decided to be like, we've historically recreated the entire the Arc de Triomphe, and you can now look at it in this non-violent app, and then also be like, but there's a Manticore.
Yeah, no, I love them integrating this stuff in there more, and I'm excited to see what it means for the future of AC. One thing I also wanted to bring up, which was a weird thing that really, really popped earlier this week, but the Batman Arkham Collection is being re-released this September in the UK, or as Amazon UK noted it. The re-release includes Batman Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight. And I think the big weird thing a lot of people were frustrated with was that Arkham City and Arkham Asylum have already been re-released for PS4 and Xbox One as the Return to Arkham collection.
Yes.
What is this? This is really strange.
This is just basically them being like, hey, if you want to buy all 3 games together, you can.
So this is called the Batman Arkham Collection.
Batman Arkham Collection. It does not include Arkham Origins, which is the prequel game made by WB Montreal, which is still kind of stuck on last gen and PC. So there's not been a PS4 or Xbox One version of that game. And it also doesn't include for PS4 or PSVR members Arkham VR, which was made after.
Yeah.
All those. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
I played all of those games and I always forget how many there were.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
It's been a larger series.
Yep.
There's the Vita and 3DS ones.
Oh yeah, the Escape from Blackgate.
Yep.
The Metroidvania ones.
Which were kind of a swing and a miss, but still a cool idea.
Right.
Yeah, and then there's been we just assume there have been rumors and reports about further Batman games going on somewhere at WB, but we don't know exactly what. It just seems like a weird way to bundle games that you can already buy. Usually on sale for like $7.
Yeah.
But however you want to buy Batman, those are really good games. I mean, so you should buy them.
Hopefully, these are drumming up excitement for like a new one.
You would assume. It seems like a weird reason otherwise to release that. I mean, who knows? I don't think Rocksteady is working on another like Batman game, but I think WB would be insane if they don't release another Batman Arkham game in this universe.
Yeah, I mean, I presume those games sold incredibly well, right?
Oh yeah, they were. I mean, they were huge critical successes, really big sales successes from what we know. It would be crazy not to continue that. But
maybe,
who knows?
Maybe a launch game?
Maybe, yeah.
That seems like a pretty
launch window. I think on this show we've predicted like something like 25 high-profile launch games. So let's delay.
Launch is going to be amazing.
Let's hypothetically delay some stuff to Q1 2021.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's how launch games are, aren't they? There's always like, it's the launch lineup, and then some of these come out 3, 4, 5, 6 months later. And you're like, okay.
I'd be okay if a new Batman came out January 2021.
It'd be really interesting to get a new Batman game and a new Rocksteady game that was not a Batman game, but was a different game based on superheroes that were not Batman, but Batman was still in some of it a little bit.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Yeah,
like,
I get
basically
what he's saying.
they tackle a different DC thing, but Batman shows up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said.
WB holds the keys
Just
to
took me
so
a
many
while.
awesome franchises, and we just don't see much of them in games. Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and DC are just kind of there. And we get occasional things, but there could be so much more.
They got the Matrix.
Yeah, they had the Matrix.
They got Mad Max.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of stuff in
Yeah.
there.
Hey, man, if the Blair Witch can come back, the Matrix can come back.
They're trying to
That
make
new
it come
movie's
back. They're trying to do a
supposed
thing
to,
with it.
yeah.
No, I mean, as a video game.
Yeah. They could do that.
It'll be surprise released in August 2021.
Or Rocksteady straight up said they're not making a Superman game.
They've said that. I will also say companies have lied in the past.
That's true. There were rumors that they were making a Suicide Squad game.
I think that might have been Eidos Montreal.
Okay. Wow.
I think. Yeah, there have been rumors of a Suicide Squad game. There have been rumors of another Batman game. There have been rumors of, I think, a Damian Wayne game, his son. So who knows where they're going to go? But presumably someone's making a Batman game in some WB studio.
You know, there's a couple of years there where we were playing these games all the time, and I almost didn't necessarily get fatigued, but I was sort of like, okay, it felt a little routine to fight all of these same characters over and over. It's been a long time, and I want to do it again.
Well, I like how they'd always be like, I feel like that's one of those series that kind of shot itself in the foot by having too much cool stuff too soon.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, Arkham Knight was like, it's had some cool stuff. Their big thing there with the Batmobile was the Batmobile. They're like, we got this thing, and you're like, oh. You sure really are getting a lot of mileage of this.
It's not as cool as the other cool stuff you've done.
Yeah, but I mean, like even
that was a
even
big long summer of like yanking winces or whatever with our cars.
I was just we did an interview with Suda51, a Japanese game developer who's wonderful and very weird, and we were like, pitch us on your Batman game, and he's like, Batman never gets out of the Batmobile. He's just constantly driving around. And I was like, that game is almost what that was.
Yeah, pretty much.
I like, total side note, I loved how they did, I think it was Nolan North's Penguin.
I think that's my favorite Nolan.
Oh, yeah. He was in Arkham City.
Yeah, and the way he had basically like half a Coke, with the bottom half of a Coke bottle smashed into his face as his monocle. It was so grimy and just street level. I love that.
They had great villain designs.
Seriously.
And I hope we'll get more of that stuff someday, but we'll see. So Batman, obviously, as we were mentioning, they sold very well, but they were, however, not part of the top 10 third-party games sold across all PlayStation platforms of all time. But we did get that information. I was speaking with Matt Piscatella of the MPD Group. He was on Twitter being like, hey, anyone want fun data? And someone happened to ask for the list of all non-Nintendo games, like the top-selling non-Nintendo games on Nintendo platforms across time. So he compiled that list. And then
everybody go follow him. He's awesome.
He's great.
Matt Piscatella.
We also asked him for the overall top third-party games sold across all platforms combined, as well as PlayStation and Xbox. For note, this is MPD's data based on physical sales since 1995 and digital since 2012. Not all companies report all of their data, so it's obviously not complete, but these are usually the most official best numbers that we can get at. These numbers are also based on total dollar sales, so this is not number of units sold. But does anyone want to take a guess at what the top third-party game of all time across PlayStation platforms is?
It's got to be a GTA.
Which one?
4.
Max?
5.
You are correct, Max. GTA 5 is the top third-party game across all PlayStation platforms by total dollar sales since 1995.
Damn.
It is also the top third-party game across all platforms combined from Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox in total.
We've talked about this before, but when they invariably release GTA 5 for PlayStation 5, do you think the NPD, at least for a couple months, will concurrently have GTA 5 on PlayStation 4 and GTA 5 on PlayStation 5 at the exact same time?
Probably. I mean, so what they do when they have games that are on different SKUs, they combine all those sales as one thing.
Oh.
And then tell you which SKU has sold the best.
Even generationally?
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I want to know those numbers.
I think they do. Maybe I'm wrong. Matt,
I just want
tell us.
Yeah, Matt, break it down for us. I just want like a raw top 10 of this hypothetical situation we've just invented.
Yeah.
Does that count like GTA cash whale shark cards or whatever, like online microtransactions?
I don't know.
Because if they're counting that, that's got to be like
then that would up and away.
Yeah.
Well, so that with this being based on total dollar sales, that's why you get in the overall top list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Rock Band is the 7th highest selling game of all time, but of course that game was selling in $200-$250 bundles at the height of music genre.
And also, it hasn't been selling since.
Yeah,
which is weird. To imagine like having that much of a head start that long ago and still being in the top 10 despite not even being in the race for like the last 7 years.
So interestingly, what do you think is the number 2 top selling third-party game across all PlayStation platforms combined in total dollar sales since 1990?
It's got to be a Call of Duty or a Madden.
It is not either of those.
Wow.
FIFA?
Nope. It is another music game. Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock.
What?
Is the number 2.
The number 2?
Number 2 of all third-party games sold across PlayStation platforms combined.
What?
In total dollar sales. Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it goes GTA 5, Guitar Hero 3, San Andreas, and then Black Ops 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, Call of Duty World War 2, Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4.
Oh my God.
So mostly Call of Duty for PlayStation. Matt gave us a little more intel about this list in comparison to PlayStation first-party exclusives because obviously those are such big draws for PlayStation, some of the most critically best reviewed games in the years they come out. He mentioned that in terms of this list compared to first-party games, the top-selling PlayStation exclusive would be Marvel's Spider-Man, and it would rank 18th overall on the list of top-selling games across all PlayStation platforms.
In terms of exclusives?
And in terms of third-party and exclusives combined.
Oh,
so if this list was third-party and exclusive, so basically all games released on PlayStation, Spider-Man would be the first highest-selling PlayStation exclusive, and it would only come in at number 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
And Matt said, speaking over email, Matt said, the common conception that the first-party published exclusives are dominant on PlayStation platforms isn't really proven out by the data. Yes, exclusive games are a meaningful part of the consumer purchase decision, and many PlayStation exclusive titles have been massive successes, but ultimately it is the third-party franchises that occupy the bestsellers chart lifetime.
Right. Yeah, that's so fascinating and so true. I mean, that is where I think you can tell how well a system is doing because I think people sort of ebb and flow, and we've seen that where with Xbox 360 was on top for a while, and third parties were selling the best there, and then I think there was sort of a shift towards the end of the generation, and people are fickle, and they go where the Call of Duties and the Maddens and apparently the Guitar Heroes were. It's really odd that no one's made any attempt to bring that franchise back, or that rhythm games or music games really have subsided. There was one attempted revival when Guitar Hero Live and Rock Band 4 came out in the same year.
They basically took a couple of years off from those franchises and then both happened to be coming back the same year.
Interesting.
And Rock Band 4 was essentially like, hey, you remember Rock Band? It's still here.
Yeah.
Because obviously you've probably invested hundreds of dollars in the songs. Whereas Guitar Hero Live, I was a huge music game fan. Guitar Hero Live they introduced a new type of controller. It had a different button scheme. And it was introducing kind of a little bit ahead of its time, but also a weird thing to wrap your head around of instead of buying songs individually, you essentially bought tokens to play songs on a rotating library that they had streaming.
So like a jukebox.
Yeah, you basically plugged into their online jukebox, which had songs updating and cycling out, and you would pay by the token to play.
It's such a too soon kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like the way that just licensing for things on the internet has changed so much. I mean, you look at Beat Saber right now, and that's those guys. I feel like if they do a Beat Saber 2, they're going to come out with a lot harder hitting tracks and stuff. But
yeah, I mean that is on a bunch of platforms with a sort of small user base, but it's like tremendously passionate for that game. Like people really, really dig that game. And we've obviously seen a lot of swing and a misses in like terms of like karaoke games and stuff like that. But like Just Dance is regularly one of the best selling games also. So I think there is something there. It's just weird to sort of assume or to hear that that's like one of the biggest PlayStation games.
Yeah.
I guess that's just by the sheer volume of how many console units they got out there and how many people in that user base were like, I just want to play guitar.
Yeah, Guitar Hero 3 was pretty much the apex of music gaming because it was this weird time where Harmonix made Guitar Hero 1 and 2. Activision and Harmonix split ways when Activision had the rights, and Guitar Hero 3 was then made by Vicarious Visions, I believe I want to say. And that was when like Guitar Hero 2 really catapulted the success, and then 3 was kind of the apex, while then Rock Band was trying to compete. Harmonix was competing with Rock Band.
It wasn't even just like the music genre too. We were cleaning out just a random closet here, a storage facility here at IGN recently, and we found like a stack of Tony Hawk Air controllers.
Oh yeah.
And we were just laughing about like I held one of those for the Tony Hawk Ride, I think it was, or Ride or Air.
Yeah, I think both. Together. They had two.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I remember that it was like they basically made a skateboard peripheral with no wheels, and you had to hold it up and scan it in front of like a camera. And I think people were just really chasing this plastic peripheral thing for a while.
Yeah,
and
I mean, I think
away from it.
We're seeing like people getting like mad about like plastic straws at Starbucks, and I think there's definitely a movement away from like why do we need to make a thing for this? And especially with like how people approach things digitally, like we're seeing a decline in toy sales because kids just get stuff for free on their phones. I want to see what like. If there is a sort of rhythm game turnaround for this. I think Nintendo Labo is one of those things that we're going to see like that's going to be what the toy industry looks like in 15 years, in the same way that Nintendo is always weirdly ahead of the curve but sort of 4 steps behind at the same time. But the fact that they came out and they were like, here's a fishing pole peripheral, here's like here's a bazooka, here's like a camera, like all this stuff, and it's like it's all made of cardboard. You throw it in the recycle bin, it's gone. You don't have to worry about it. And that's also, it probably costs more to produce like the game cartridge than it does the entire set of peripherals there.
No, I mean there's an eco-conscious approach to peripheral design, which I think like is pretty interesting. But it's also, we covered the story a couple weeks ago about, or just recently, it might have even been a couple days ago, about GameStop's sort of continuous decline. Right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting to sort of map that to A, the ebb and flow of a console generation, but B, the sheer lack of like the giant plastic peripheral industry anymore. I mean, when you're heading into an all digital future, there's less and less of a reason to go to a brick and mortar store, and you wouldn't download a skateboard.
Yeah. Well,
or a guitar.
No, so counterpoint to this, like what if people start taking Microsoft's like adaptive controller and 3D printing peripherals for it?
Yeah.
Like, what if you go on Etsy or Shapeways or whatever it's called and like buy a modern Guitar Hero controller that's, I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're so far away from that being anything mass market enough to be, the second or third best selling PlayStation game of all time.
Yeah.
But
No, it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be cool when we see like, I don't know, like Stranger Things season 45 and somebody's playing Guitar Hero 3 and you're like, I remember those.
Nostalgia for the old days.
Yeah.
the kids are 100.
Yeah.
Well, we're probably not going to be playing Guitar Hero anytime soon, except for me occasionally in the office because I still love it. I did want to bring up a game we'll probably be playing soon in August, which is Control. And I'm going to see if this works. Hopefully it does. Okay, that's in the bottom right-hand corner. Let's see if I can make it big.
The game's really tiny.
So this month...
That's got to be kind of a weird thing to say for anybody listening along at home.
If you're watching the video version, we're looking at the first few minutes of Control, which is the new game from Remedy, the creators of Alan Wake and Quantum Break. They like rhyming, except for this game. We have an IGN First this month, so you'll be seeing a lot of exclusive coverage out of our UK team. They went over to Remedy and got to see a bunch of the game and talk to the devs and everything. So right now we have the first few minutes of the game up. I believe it's the first 13 or so. You can watch those if you'd like. This is just a really cool looking game. I've always appreciated Remedy's stuff, and I would love to see maybe Sony pick them up as a studio, which is apparently a rumor that's been going on.
That seems pretty likely.
That would be pretty amazing. Nothing is whatsoever confirmed. Neither side has said that is definitely a thing happening. But in terms of, we know Sony is considering picking up studios. We know they love big cinematic storytelling-based games. Remedy is one of those studios who makes really interesting, awesome adventures, and I wish they could have a sort of consistent home.
Yep.
Control looks really cool, and this comes up in particular, and I'm going to grab that off the screen. Let's see if this works. Our names are back up, and now they're gone. Remedy recently got the publishing rights back for Alan Wake, which they basically said what this means.
They found the pages of the book.
That essentially means they can do what they want with publishing Alan Wake now. And of course, it would be pretty cool to have that published on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Those were great games. That was a great game, and the American Nightmare DLC they released as well was pretty great. So.
We spent the top of the show talking about these sort of like long multiplayer centric, very bloated, play forever, open world shooty games. It's really cool that Sony just keeps doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on these like strong story-driven cinematic single-player games. I think if there is even even entertaining the rumor that they would buy a studio like Remedy is super cool, because it's obviously just really cementing their approach to making video games with a strong narrative that are good for lonely gamer dudes who want to play without a bunch of people yelling in their headsets like me. So.
Yeah,
shout out to the potential of that hopefully happening.
I've been thinking a lot about like what specifically about games really appeals to me, and I've kind of zeroed in on the fact that I like the
graphics,
the combat,
sounds,
replay value, and fun factor. No, I think like environments are more interesting to me than anything else.
Yeah,
I think that it's. Like a TV show with great characters will be compelling if they're sitting in an office, but with a game, it's like giving me an environment to explore that's really fascinating is the fastest way to kind of hook me. And I might not even care about who I'm playing as, but like if it's sort of feels like a compelling world and not just like a bunch of hallways with like stuff in them.
Well, that's why like the Battlefront games piss me off so much, because I'm like, you built Jabba's palace? Can I look? And they're like, no, get back to work. This is a first to 20 team kills
Go back
match.
to the esports.
You're leaving the area. Please return.
Exactly.
Like, no, that's the area I want to go to.
All your friends are mad at you. You've let down your team.
But what I love about Control is that it's so. I think I had this. I did an interview with them at E3, and I was like, it is surrealist, brutalist architecture, but it's also like this weird kind of anachronistic office space where there's like there's like a janitor with like a classic Walkman, but then you pull out your gun and it's like this weird like obelisk looking like bizarre futuristic technology, and it does this thing to my brain where I'm like, I don't know when this is, and I really don't know where this is. And they're doing a lot of cool stuff. Like the setting is, I think I said it was aggressively mundane.
Yes. Yeah.
And they were like, I don't know. I mean, they're like Scandinavian, so I don't know if they were offended horribly or thought that was funny, but they seem to kind of roll with it. And then that's the thing that really just fascinates me is I want to know more about this. Like I want to know what's up with this funky office building.
I think there's a really interesting horror in the mundane, in the day to day. I mean, like we work at a very fun office, but if you ever come in here like to grab something that you forgot on like a Saturday afternoon or something,
it's weird.
Or even at, like you stay around late and all the lights go down and all the computer monitors turn off and no one's there anymore, and it's just like, oh, this is creepy.
Mm-hmm. Like there was legitimately 2 weeks ago, Pablo, who runs facilities here, told me that 2 people were working here on a Saturday and heard rattling in the stairwell at like 11 a.m. on a Saturday, and there was no one on the cameras, no one in the building other than them, like no record of anyone. So it's haunted.
I'm so all in on like really just regular setting. Like I think that's what's so scary about those like Paranormal Activity movies is that they're like really familiar. But if you take me like, it's like, oh, it's a horror movie. They go to an abandoned Victorian mental institution. You're like, oh no, it's an old, it's always Victorian stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so it's like, yeah, what'd you expect going in that old ass place?
I mean, but in video games, I'm so kind of tired of just like bombed out, like desolate, like whether post-apocalyptic or just like derelict kind of settings. I've like rooted through so many dumpsters and garbage cans and like looking around for old shell casings or whatever, and it's like, okay, give me something new. And this game definitely seems to have that, like in just a ton of it. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. It looks, I don't know if you gave like something like Half-Life like a sleek European overhaul. So
my first E3 with IGN, which was my first E3 period, our war room was in the convention center, and at 5:30 they shut the doors, and at 6:30 we were still writing and all that other stuff, and at 7:30, 8:30, and our whole team brought food in, and we had dinner in there, and it was like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. We all wrote very late back in the day, and all the lights were off, and all the doors to E3 were shut, and it is just this cold, empty, giant sort of hollow building with no life, and there's no games. And it's like that thing when you're a kid and you're like, I want to stay in the mall after the mall closes, and then you're like, oh wait, no, this is actually creepy.
The mall is weird.
Yeah, I think there's something really cool about that.
I spent the night in the Crystal Dynamics offices once. We did like a 24-hour live stream there.
Oh, weird.
That was creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
It was really. They got big statues of Gex everywhere. I'm like, no, I'm not joking.
No, that's
I totally.
Wow,
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
But it's that same feeling of like when you're a kid and you go to you stay late after school and you're like, this was a dead place.
Yeah.
It's too quiet here. This is not normal.
Yep.
It's a very weird sensation, and I like the idea that they're capturing that in a game world you explore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And with no time passing absolutely whatsoever, let's move on to our next segment. I thought we could talk a little bit about our favorite games, PS4 games of 2019 so far, especially because we have a feature going up written by our Damon Hatfield and voiced by myself about the best PS4 games of 2019 so far. So this is the closest we get here at IGN to being scientific about what is best. So, nothing will go wrong. This is based on, this list is every game on PS4 so far this year that got an 8.5 or above.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So if you have a problem with those ratings, talk to the individual people.
A statistical, highly number-based metric breakdown of opinions.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The way we do things here in
we
games.
just love kicking that beehive.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, no. The number is representative of one person's subjective opinion. But by the way, here's a scientifically ranked list.
And without further ado, as the script says, here are the best PlayStation 4 games of 2019 so far, and then I want to talk about what actually our favorites are. But I just wanted to mention everything that's gotten an 8.5 or above on IGN in 2019.
That appeared on PS4, not necessarily exclusively.
Yes, yeah. So this is third-party, multi-platform exclusive. PSVR, I believe, is included on here. If it is not, yep, it is. Good. I should have remembered because I did the script. Anyway, this list includes Dauntless at an 8.5, Dirt Rally 2.0 at an 8.5, Metro Exodus at an 8.5, Team Sonic Racing at an 8.5, The Division 2 at an 8.5, Blood and Truth at an 8.7, that was me. Kingdom Hearts at 3 at an 8.7, that was also me. MLB The Show 19 8.7, that was not me. Trover Saves the Universe 8.7, that was Tom Marks. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night 8.8. Slay the Spire 9, Apex Legends 9, Mortal Kombat 11 9, Observation 9, Resident Evil 2 9, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice 9.5, Devil May Cry 5 9.5. And that is everything above an 8.5 so far.
Before we continue,
yes.
I feel like it's my civic duty to explain that these numbers don't necessarily indicate that Apex Legends, for example, is a better game than Kingdom Hearts.
Sure.
It is basically being valued on what it is attempting to do and what is
it means that
succeeding
the person who played Apex Legends, they didn't like Goofy.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. No, I
reviewed Apex Legends and obviously rated it above.
I say this
I hate Goofy and I'm glad he's not in this game.
Yeah.
Real talk, actually, I've been watching the new Disney Mickey Mouse shorts that they've been doing for the last couple of years.
Right?
They're crazy. I really like them. But the way they make Goofy kind of like a meth addict and just don't talk about it is a little weird.
Huh.
Like the design of him is just kind of like, he seems to like just be really disheveled.
Does he look more like a cow or a dog?
In the new one?
In the new one.
A skinny cow. Not like the ice cream, but like a cow with
Looney Tunes is doing the same thing. They're making like super short little YouTube animations there.
Where's this going?
Anyway, I want to play Resident Evil 2. I haven't played that.
It rules. You'll love it.
I've been traveling so much that I haven't I've been playing old games on my little.
Do a nice long spooky weekend and play that game.
What did we give Judgment? I forget.
Judgment was, I think it just missed this.
Like
I think it was like like an 8.2.
Oh,
8.2. Okay.
I want to say. I'm double checking. 8.2. Yes.
But yeah. Again, very dumb thing I like to say during these segments, but these reviews have different numbers and they're not necessarily comparable unless they're vertically in the same genre. In the same way, like the Taco Bell and the Home Depot in your town are both on Yelp and might have similar amounts of stars, but aren't necessarily both competing for the same audience.
If you had to choose one, though, which would you pick?
For food?
No, just which would you pick?
Actually, for food, it'd be a tough one.
Home Depot?
I think I'd love to make a shed out of tacos.
They actually sell tacos at the Home Depot. Why do we always talk about this? I swear it's like the third podcast we had this discussion on. Anyway,
yeah, Judgment got an 8.2. One of my favorite games this year, and I'm actually going to write a piece about it. I really have fallen hard for Crash Team Racing.
Oh, really?
Because they've added this post-launch mode called Grand Prix. And I'm going to write a piece basically about how like Mario Kart needs to steal this because they've added an entirely new meta game where there are now daily, weekly, monthly themed and like hourly challenges that count toward a total point value that you can collect. And you unlock new skins, new characters, new cars, like all this stuff across playing everything in the game. So it'll be like hit 3 enemies with missiles without missing once, or just complete this cup, or complete 10 matches online, or just all these various challenges.
That is brilliant.
It is so cool and so smart. And like I've legitimately sunk at least 2 to 3 hours into Crash since the July 4th weekend started because of this mode.
I'm such a sucker for things like that in video games too. Just like weird little bar filling gamified nonsense like that. And I think I'd be totally into that in a game like Mario Kart.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Also, really Crash is stolen enough from Mario Kart. So I think it's time for Mario to steal something.
That's right. I mean, I feel like we would have gotten that with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe if that had been made for Switch.
Yeah. Had they ported it, made a new game instead of
right. Yeah.
Whatever the next one is.
Yeah.
It should but anyway, so that's
that
the
rules.
list of these. That's an example, I think, of just me saying like we love certain games, like you love Judgment. That is not on this list. That doesn't mean they are in any way bad. Mm-hmm. But so I wanted to talk about the games we're loving this year so far. Because I think we've all, at IGN, the internet in general, at least Twitter, has talked about how this year definitely feels like a down year. But I think there have really been some surprise standouts. A lot of smaller games have had time to shine.
Yeah, my list is super interesting this year, and I think we've covered a bunch of them already. But stuff like Resident Evil 2, Bloodstained, Blood and Truth, and Sekiro are completely different games.
Yep,
they're all over the place in terms of scope and scale. I mean, Sekiro and RE2 are pretty much up near the top. My issue with Sekiro is more my issue with me. I was like maybe 60% done with that game, and just got pulled into a bunch of work trips in a row, like PAXs and all these cons and nonsense. And I came back and had forgotten how to play. And I was so deep in the game that it took me a minute to relearn, and I got my ass kicked and I got frustrated and then I dropped it. But I want to go back and finish it. And I genuinely mean that, not in one of those like every podcaster's like, oh, I'm going to go back and finish this. I do want to finish that game.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's FromSoft, and I was like head over heels for it. And then I backed away. But Bloodstained I'm chipping away at right now. And it's definitely a little bit more obtuse than I was expecting it to be. It's also not nearly as pretty as any of the vintage Castlevania games, I think, for the lack of pixel art.
I played most of it over the weekend. And
yeah.
The visual like lack of fidelity, not that it's not like poorly animated necessarily. It's just like I don't love the design of the characters meshed against a 2D background.
I totally agree. And like it's weird because video games are something you mostly look at, you know? Like, and so you have to kind of like what you're looking at. And there's a lot of games that people get really into that I try and the art style doesn't mesh with me, and I feel like I'm kind of being bougie about it, but it's not really like, it's just ultimately my brain is telling my eyes and vice versa, like you don't like looking at what you're looking at, so stop playing it. But Bloodstained is fun enough, and I think I've been missing that vintage Castlevania feel for so long that I'm powering through it.
Yeah, I've played I'm like 60% of the way through the main campaign, like obviously a lot more of the map to find. But yeah, I've definitely not enjoyed looking at it, yet continue to play because I'm so into its loop. And know that like, oh, I'm just about to find a new location, or oh, the boss battle is probably right around the corner, or like I know what part of the map I'm filling out to a certain extent, so I want to keep pushing to see what comes next.
Yeah, it's been a weird year in that like there's a couple big games that I've been into, and then a couple tiny ones, but it doesn't feel like last year did.
No, we made a video at E3 that was like, oh, the big loser of E3 2019 is 2019, and people got mad at us because they were like, what about all these things? And it's like, as far as things that were revealed that are coming out this fall,
yes,
it is statistically there are like less big, huge releases coming out this fall because we are on the tail end of this console generation.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of companies realize that you can put something out in February and people will still buy it.
Yep.
I
was
reading this fascinating story this morning about Disney and the box office, and how Disney now owns 40% of the box office. And so what they did is they came in and they picked all the best, like statistically, these are the best, like determined by an algorithm. This is when you sell the most movie tickets, leaving all the other studios to sort of like work within the margins of that. And I was thinking about how that's starting to happen with games a lot, and we've seen it for a long time where like that big fear-based thing where, you know, Red Dead or Call of Duty or something would be like, this is our day, and if you put your game out on that day, it was suicide, and so everybody moved away. And so I think so many people found all these places to get away from these big game drops that things are just happening constantly right now. But that sort of happening with the, you know, decrescendo of the end of a console generation is showing us that there's less of the big things. I think people are kind of like holding in their big stories until the next time around, or they got them out last year. So that said, I do think that this console generation is going to end really strongly. Like, I don't think it's going to be like one of those like one or two swan songs and that's it.
Oh yeah, I mean, like what we know of 2020, and like speaking to that video, everything we know confirmed for 2020 is like in any other year, assuming those games are as good as we're kind of expecting them to be, would all be probably Game of the Year contenders, just like colloquially based on what we've seen.
Yep,
probably would be in that conversation.
There's a lot of big stuff this fall, obviously. Too, right? Yeah. You know, like the conversation's going to keep going, and I love the fact that like just my short list has like a 2D Dracula fighting game and a VR schlocky B movie, and you know, a horror game and a ninja game. Like, it's just cool.
Yeah,
I feel like we had the same conversation about this time last year, where it was sort of like, well, the top half had some bangers in it, but not like, you know, there was obviously like God of War, but we were sort of like, where's the rest of everything, you know? And
it filled out. I think for me, on a personal note, like AAA has not really been my thing this year. Yeah, like I couldn't connect with Sekiro, and it's one of those things where I can appreciate the hell out of it. I'm just in a point in my life where I don't want to deal with that frustration and working through it. And
I remember entire years feeling like this, where I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, my favorite game that year was Proteus or whatever, and I'm like, what else came out that like? I think the launch of the PS4 was very much like that, where there were games that I had fun with but didn't fall in love with. Sekiro is a phenomenal game that I will never finish, and I've accepted that. And I don't like the setting. Like, talking about the whole thing about environments and places I want to explore. There's something about the traversal being too fast to make me really enjoy it. Which, meanwhile, Bloodborne, I think the fact that you're on the ground and there's almost like there's like a creeping element to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it's broad daylight, so you can kind of see everything, and you're like,
totally. And I think Sekiro gets into the creepy, obtuse FromSoft world that I like a little bit here and there, but my main issue with it is honestly the lack of variety in terms of weaponry and combat. Whereas Bloodborne, like, you can start a new game and be like, I'm Simon Belmont this time, or I'm going to come in next time and I have like this gigantic ball and chain, or like this huge axe that has like every weapon in that game has multiple forms to it, and you find more weapons in the wild, and you can add weird elemental stones that you get from killing wolves.
Yeah,
all this fun stuff. Sekiro, you get a sword. It's a sword.
It's kind of a monkey paw wish, where it's like it's more forgiving. You get twice as many lives.
I almost burned through a DualShock controller playing Sekiro, because like it's really just a lot of just like this one. It's just one button a lot of the times, and there's a lot of dodging and parrying and stuff like that. But like, ultimately, spoilers, like, you have a sword and you keep the sword. At least I don't know if you get a second one later on. From what I read, you don't. So that kind of bums me out. That said, like, I'm happy to see them get out of their comfort zone, but I do want them back in their comfort zone.
Those games,
and making another Bloodborne.
Those games feel like instruments, in that like they're a thing that I'll pick up and I'll be like, wow, this is finely crafted. This is clearly a work of real. It's a real beaut. And then I'll like pluck a few strings and I'll be like, I cannot play a song on this to save my life.
I can play a note. I can't play a chord.
Yeah,
and that's always kind of bummed me out, because I think I'd love those games if I could get into them.
I wish I could coach you through the first hour of Bloodborne and just get you over the hump, because I think after that you'd really find something. Like,
dude, I could help you with that.
Yeah,
it's honestly, there is a moment where that game solidly clicks.
I think if there's any FromSoft game I'm going to go to, it's going to be that one Avenger. And I think I do just need to like hunker down. Maybe we can do like, you can backseat game for me.
That'd be super cool.
Also, like, that's the whole thing, is that you can phone a friend, like, that's got like call a lifeline, and they'll show up and they'll just like whoop some ass for you, and it's a good time.
But I think for me 2019 has. I don't know if anything that's come out is going to be something I remember 5 years from now, but I'm really happy for like a lot of the unique experiences I've had for me personally in like my gaming taste. Like, I'm excited to have had Trover and Blood and Truth when it comes to PSVR. I'm excited. Basically everything Devolver has put out this year, even if it's not been amazing, I've been
Katana
interested
Zero
in.
and stuff?
Katana, and not all of this has been on PS4, but like Observation and then Katana Zero and My Friend Pedro, like just all these unique Ape Out as well. Like they've put out just a lot of really killer,
Ape Out.
small, but really
I need to go
fun
back to
experiences.
Observation and mess with that some more. I
Yeah.
started it and like I was trying to have like it was one of those like afternoons where I'm like with hanging out with my wife and I'm like, oh, you want to play? Let's play a game together. I got this new thing. Let's check it out. And she's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, you play as a space station. I don't really know much else about it. I thought it was entirely a fixed perspective thing.
Okay.
And so like for the record, she's incredibly good at games. She platinum Spelunky. Which is not an easy thing to do.
Oh yeah.
But she's also got like severe like depth perception motion sickness. So if I scroll through Netflix too fast, she'll be like, "Yo, slow down! I'm getting the spins."
Oh, and the camera in that game can.
And that's
be,
that game goes from being fixed camera perspectives where you're basically just moving around slowly to being like, "Oh, you're an orb that floats around in 0G," and I was like, "This is making me queasy."
Yep.
And it's like grainy and it makes a lot of weird noises. And
Yeah.
I definitely love like all the UI.
There's a
aesthetic
great
of that.
experience to it, but yeah, it can be kind of exhausting
Yeah.
a little bit, which
It's also-
I think is part of the intent. But
I have this whole thing where I've been in a lot of spaceship hallways, and I don't find
Yeah.
myself compelled to do more. And like, there's got to be something really cool going on there. You know?
No, I totally get that.
I think they're in games a lot because they're they're easier to make. Honestly, I think it's a lot easier to make a very stark, bleak, minimalist, flat-looking tunnel rather than a jungle.
Well, also, I mean, I don't make games, but my understanding is that is it still up there? There was that what is his face? Carl Sagan quote. If you want to make an apple pie from scratch, first you have to invent the universe or whatever. The video games are very much like that, where you're like, oh, did you want gravity in your game? Because you got to figure out where the gravity goes, and where the floor is, and like how to make things stick to the floor. And like if you're in space, you're like, well, I guess we'll have a tube that we float around in, you know. And
yeah, I mean, to kind of like hover back to like the theme, I don't necessarily feel disappointed by 2019.
No.
It's definitely not, for lack of trying, because I'm throwing myself at every game that I have the opportunity to play. I just don't, and this is 2018's fault. I don't have like a bawling in tears at the end of God of War.
Yeah.
Or I don't have like a holy shit, I'm Spider-Man.
The first swing in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, like
really
the game
did make you feel like Spider-Man.
Yeah,
I said that several times.
Made you feel like Spider-Man.
Spider-Man made me a better parent.
It made me feel like a better Spider-Man.
Yeah. No,
I've never felt like Spider-Man because, like, like movie-wise, I've always been like older than that character for the most part, and also like I've never been ripped or a genius or dated a redhead, so I don't really know anything that dude's going through for real.
My girlfriend,
Like I lived in New York for a minute.
Dyeing her hair red, so I'll be a third of the way there.
That rules.
So,
there you go.
And I'm basically Spider-Man.
You're kind of a nerdy.
You're a
dude.
newsman.
You're ripped too.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Hey
you're
guys,
ripped.
don't worry about
No,
it.
don't.
Hey.
Oh, who's gonna feel like Spider-Man?
I did in the game. Anyway.
No, you had like a Spider-Man transformation where you started seeing a personal trainer and you got in really good shape.
Yeah.
Which I feel like a Spider-Man movie where he gets bit by a spider when he's like 30.
He never goes to see a person.
But he gets bit by like when he's like 32 and he suddenly gets in shape and then everyone in the office is like, hey, like there are no bullies, there's no Flash Thompson. Everyone's like, hey, you're looking really good. What'd you do? Change your diet? And he's like, yeah. I eat bugs now.
Yeah, actually, that'd be weird because I wouldn't even have to do any of the awkward high school stuff.
If that dude got bit by a spider when he was 32, he would not fight crime.
Yeah.
No.
He would be like, I have too much going on here. I have a savings account.
I have a mortgage.
It's really hard to get out of high school, but like as an adult, I could be like, I have a the proctologist, and then I go fight Venom. Where did this go?
Anyway, yeah, 2019 games. Yeah, no, I think just for me, like there was also so much great that came out at the end of 2018 that I've been catching up on that stuff, and I think that's taken. And I've been in a weird mode where I kind of just want to play games I know I like. So
Yeah.
I've been playing Batman again and Assassins and like, things I know I will enjoy.
No, I fell back on some like comfort food stuff this year, video game wise and food wise. But video game wise for sure. Like, and I think that's like I ran through Resident Evil 4 a couple times. I ran through Bloodborne once. Like it was just one of those years where I was like go back and play the stuff that clicks, that makes you feel good. Then there was stuff like, and I talked about it last week, like Far Cry New Dawn that like took over an entire 3-day weekend for me, and I like practically I think I might have platinumed it, and then it just totally passed through my system like a kidney stone. I don't even think about it anymore. But like I remember having a really good time in the moment. and then just not thinking about it afterwards. And I don't know where you quantify stuff like that at the end of the year, because it's not the most played, it's not the best, but I sure as hell enjoyed it for a few days.
That's been, I think, 2019 for me in a nutshell. It's like I've played a lot of smaller games and experiences like in a weekend or in a week or 2 weeks, and I really enjoyed them. I don't remember a lot of them.
Yeah.
Not that they were bad.
It sort of feels like when you marathon a show and then it doesn't get a second season for like 2 years, and then it comes back and you're like, oh yeah, I watched all of Divorce on HBO. I sort of liked it, I think. I don't really remember. I get, the new season's here.
We're in a entertainment has taken on that binge culture aspect as TV moved away from being weekly for the biggest temple shows so much, and movie releases are more bingey in a way than ever, because it's like you have to be at opening weekend for the big tentpole movies, or why even go?
I know. Well, I was talking about this with Max earlier, but like the studios have effectively financially weaponized spoiler culture.
Yeah.
And made it to the point where it's like, if your ass is not in the seat in the first 2 days, you're going to come to work on Monday and someone's going to snitch on some cool shit that happened. And that's great for the box office. Like, that's how every weekend is a record weekend for every new movie. So.
I tore through Red Dead 2. Like, I got married last year. That was a thing I never thought I was going to do, but I was more impressed with myself for finishing Red Dead 2 because that was a thing I really didn't think I was ever going to do.
Yeah.
And it just that game keeps going. It's a very good game, but by the end of it, I felt like it's like when you binge eat, when you eat too much, and you're like, I don't feel like sated or like satisfied. I feel like I'm stuffed. It's a phenomenal game, and I wish I'd like just paced myself with it, but instead I was like, I need to finish one of the biggest games of 2018 in 2018, and it's, I don't know, that's such a weird thing to like. We were just having a meeting about this, talking about how to talking about how to cover games, and like there's the way you cover a movie or a TV show is very different from how you cover a game, because a game is a thing that takes sometimes 60 hours if you're good, and then like, you can really suck at Stranger Things, and you can still beat that game in 8 hours.
Yeah.
The show, not the game, which they now make.
I think it's like 6 to 10. But yeah, we can send the entire entertainment team to a screening of The Lion King.
Yep.
We can't necessarily bank on the entire gaming team to play 100 hours of an upcoming RPG.
Yeah, and realistically, we're all going to experience those things differently. And I think the same thing can be said for movies and film, in that, like, there are people that walked out of the movie Midsommar because they were repulsed by it. And for me, it's my favorite movie this year. Go see Midsommar if you haven't yet. Please do. I know it's not based on anything.
Just going cold.
And so, like, what's interesting about that is that the three of us all sit down and play a video game at the exact same time, and we're going to hit different points in the game that push back. I'm going to fly through something that kills me later that you fly through, and you're going to use a different weapon than I'm going to use. And
that's assuming it's a linear game.
Yeah.
Or that you're mainlining it.
Yeah. I mean, look at something like Apex or Fortnite or something like that. Like, every time you sit down and play that game, it's completely different for every single person in that game. And so... not even depending on skill base, but even if like you have an intuitive nature about what to do and where to go, your experience is going to differ. And so, like, yeah, that's a very fascinating way to sort of approach video games in general. And that's why it's tough to take all these things and put them down and go, this is what this year did for us. Because I think it's easy to calculate when you're talking about narrative story-driven games, because assuming you made it through those, even if you got through on easy or the hardest setting, we all saw the same ending for God of War. But something like Apex is something we all interface with differently.
I got the ending where a 14-year-old yells at me.
That's actually
it's a common ending for me too.
Yeah.
So 2019 in short. Mm-hmm. A lot of different things.
Play Judgment.
Play Judgment. I still need to play a lot more.
Okay. Well, I was like 6 hours in last week.
Yeah.
I'm 22 hours in now.
Good.
So yeah.
Good.
That game is officially clicked. I've hyped up the Yakuza series a whole bunch. I've recommended my sort of playing order for that series. And people come in the comments inevitably and are like, no, play the other one first. And I just play Judgment at this point. It's a totally fresh start. It's the newest iteration of that engine. It's all squeaky clean, brand new, shiny, totally like fine-tuned, and it's brand new characters for everybody. So like, just get in there, mess around. You play as a detective. It's not confusing. Like, I didn't know what a Yakuza was really. They're sort of like gangster businessmen. It's a long story, but you play as a cool detective, and and it gets very silly after like 5 hours.
Yeah, that's one on my list of I think could be in my like game of the year list, but I just need to play more of it.
I haven't played that much Persona. I think I've sunk maybe 10 hours into that. This game has a ton of Persona vibes to it.
Yeah, I felt that in just the couple first hours I played.
Like there's just a lot more like sort of weird little not mini games and not side quests, but like there's also a part where you have to do coffee tasting, which was very Persona, but
just like a tone and an air to it.
Yeah, and there's dating. You can go on dates with the ladies, and it's I don't know. There's like the localization's also super funny and cute, but there's a part in there where like in the tutorial for like going on dates where they're like with dialogue options, like if a girl like texts you and wants to go hang out and you say no, you can go and hang out with her later, unlike in real life. And I'm like, oh, that's cold. What happened?
Oh God. Just what I need. Games telling me how to actually live my life. But no, I'm really excited to play more Judgment. Obviously, there have been a lot of really great games this year.
And it's only July.
Yeah, we have a lot more to cover as the year goes on. But those are some of our favorites of 2019 so far. So, Lucy, Max and Brian talked about a bunch of silly games no one likes, like Sekiro and Judgment.
Oh.
Bad games. Terrible.
Bad games.
Terrible games. Yep. What are some of your favorite games of 2019, even if one of them is Sekiro?
So far, Resident Evil 2
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's really early, so it's like people are starting to forget that it actually came out this year, but it was just so good. It was so much better than I ever could have imagined. I think the thing is with that one is that I was I had very high expectations because Resident Evil 2 is a deeply, deeply personal favorite game of mine from when I was younger. And my expectations were really, really up there. And it was just such a perfect remake in terms of bringing the series into 2019 while still completely retaining the spirit of the original. And I think it's, I've said this so many times that people are probably bored of listening to me say it, but it really did. I think it's sort of changed what a remake should look like now. And I think nothing else is really going to be acceptable that is not of that kind of level.
Yeah, unless you're doing just like a straight remaster.
Unless you're doing a straight remaster.
It feels like one of those things where I feel like this and last year, I think to an extent as well, Shadow of the Colossus, probably like very clear benchmarks for, if you're going to remake a beloved game, you can't half-ass it. It has to. It
can't just be a little upgrade, a little visual polish. It's got to be modern. It's got to feel modern.
Yeah.
So I'm really intrigued by Final Fantasy VII because that's another favorite of mine, and I really want to see if it's going to get a similar level. And by all accounts, it seems going to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that has been it was such a massive shake-up for me this year. What else? I will quickly touch on Outer Wilds just because I'm really enjoying it. It's very moody. It's very, it's one of those games where I feel like I can kind of do anything and go anywhere, but I don't feel terrified by that. I feel kind of inspired by it.
Yeah, the scope of that game, because usually for me when that's if you throw me in a Skyrim, I'm like, there are too many things to do.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go play a racing game because I know I can just race there.
Yeah.
But with this, it's like, there are 4 or 5 main hub areas you can go to without saying too much. Of course, it's not on PS4 yet. Annapurna, bring that to PS4. Please.
That's right. I keep forgetting.
So
we're on a PlayStation show, and that's not on PS4.
Fine, but it should be. It's
but it should be for those of you listening who only own a PlayStation 4, I'm so sorry because it is such a wonderful game. But I will also quickly mention Judgment. I know that Max probably mentioned it already.
A little bit.
But I'm coming from it having never really played the Yakuza series before.
Yeah.
I've always intended to. It's just somehow it's just like through my fingers. You know what I mean? And this is I know this is kind of a slightly different Yakuza experience, but it still retains some of the series' core kind of tenets. I guess.
The trappings,
right?
And whatnot.
Yeah. And I'm loving it, and I'm loving it in a very similar way that I loved Persona 5 because it just feels. It really does a magnificent job of making you feel like you're in like Tokyo or a Tokyo style city.
Yeah, it's funny. Max said the same thing as someone who didn't really play much Persona or like love it in the same way some of us did. But he was like, "Yeah, you get kind of Persona vibes from it." Yeah. Which I'm only like 3 or 4 hours in, but it's one of those like, oh, I really need to play more of this.
Yeah, and I was playing in front of my girlfriend who loves Japan, and you know she's not a big gamer, but she was just watching me play, and she was just like, this makes me want to go back because it's just so evocative.
Yeah,
and you know, just like going into a convenience store and you know searching through every individual item, and then some dude will crash through the window, and then you have like a crazy fight in the convenience store. It's just it's a lot of fun. I don't know if I'll finish it, but just because the scope, like it's just
it's a lot.
It's a lot, you know, it's a lot of time. But
we're not busy. We don't have much going on.
But yeah, I know, God. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that. Yeah, I think those are sort of my personal highlights this year.
Yeah, I wanted to ask what you thought. Excuse me, just really quickly of 2019 in general, because that's kind of what we were talking about. Those other boys.
Yeah, I think it's been a slowish year. Mm-hmm. I think that there have been months that have been really quiet, and the big game releases, I don't know, they've kind of haven't made as much of an impact as I thought.
Yeah,
they would have. Like I can't believe Kingdom Hearts 3 came out.
I know.
Sorry, Jonathan.
I still am like, oh my god, that came out in 2019.
Yeah.
Like that was 3-4 very intense days of my life.
It was,
and that was in January. And that feels like 2 years ago.
Yeah. It's been a quiet year. I think that next year is going to be so stacked. I mean, you know, we saw that from E3. Obviously, all of the announcements, well, I'm generalizing, but so many of the big announcements were on games that are coming out next year, not this year. So I feel like 2019 has kind of just been like the calm before the storm, and next year everything's going to explode. We're going to find out so much more about next gen. It's going to be a very different year. So I just feel like, everyone is kind of heads down at the moment.
Yeah, biding their time for everything that's really going to be.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know if that's how you guys felt as well.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, especially I think the second half of this year definitely feels a bit more packed.
Yeah.
Especially like pre-E3, it felt like nothing was coming out in the second half of this year. And now we have a better sense, but it definitely just quantifiably feels like less going on.
Yeah.
But hopefully it gives a lot of stuff room to breathe and find audiences.
Yeah, and like we still got Death Stranding. Like there are still big games coming out.
It's not going to be quiet.
No, it's not going to be. It's not going to end with a whimper. It's just been like so far, like we're in July now. It's been quite a long year.
Oh yeah. Well, Lucy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Jonathan.
We'll see you back next week.
Woo!
For
I'll be there.
599.
I will be there.
Jonathan, back to you and whatever stuff you were talking about. I don't remember. Moving on from that, few segments to wrap up the show. First one I want to do very quickly. I'm calling it Dream of the Week. It will probably not be weekly, but I thought we could show off cool dreams made in Dreams. This one, because I love when people recreate things, a user by the name of Millbox recreated the opening of Crash Bandicoot in Dreams, and basically like one-to-one redid the opening. I believe it's of Crash 2, I want to say. It's been a while since I've seen the openings of each of them.
What's the one where he gets an ear infection?
Crash Goes to the Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's favorite, but
if you're listening,
well, now this is just
Crash nose and throat.
Yeah, this is incredibly well modeled. It's oh my god, yeah, this is awesome. When we first checked out the Dreams beta, alpha, whatever it was, when people started making stuff, I feel like the level design was like rudimentary, but its heart was in its right place, and some of the modeling was like getting there, but it was definitely sort of like little looser interpretations. And it's so fascinating to see how far all of that has come and the community has come.
Yeah.
It's sort of like checking out the E3 build of a game and then the final build of a game. But this is hundreds of games or thousands of games in unison.
I have a stupid question. Does this game have a release date yet?
No, it's just the early access version is available for purchase. It seems like they're kind of keeping it in an early access state.
Okay.
As like tools continue to be added and interface changes and all that stuff gets adjusted. I think because this is so driven by what the community can create and wants to create, it's one of those games where it's going to probably have the early access label for a while. It's not kind of until they just forever.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I wonder if they are positioning a marketing campaign blitz based on the power of how awesome the user-generated content has been so far, and then obviously keeping that agnostic from any brands and franchises that they don't own the rights to, because you couldn't necessarily be like, Mario, Sonic, Crash Bandicoot, and Tetris are all here.
You know, when I was like, one of my earliest like PlayStation memories was seeing commercials for Parappa the Rapper and thinking that it was a video game where you got to make rap videos starring animals.
Yeah.
And then playing it and being sorely disappointed. But this is, in fact, a game where you can make rap
Someone
videos.
can make that game.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
So yeah, we're watching a pretty great recreation of Crash Bandicoot. Pretty well done platforming wise and everything. If you have awesome dreams that you want to share with us, whether they're made in dreams or just your dreams in real life,
Don't tell us about your real life dreams.
No,
That is
go
like-
ahead.
No,
I'll read
it's like
them.
one of my pet peeves is hearing people describe that.
You remember that lizard we met in Florida?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
The scary one? Not the alligator, but the lizard one. The Gila monster thing.
No.
You don't remember the Gila monster?
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I woke up in a frantic terror because I dreamed
frizzy?
it was in my father's garage and it was going to bite me in the foot.
You don't live in your father's garage.
I mean, maybe. Why not?
That's okay. Sure. But yeah, shout out to the Dreams community. The
yes,
game.
yeah. Continue to make awesome things, and
Yeah.
we will try to highlight it. Just called it Dream of the Week. I don't know
Make
if
a
it'll
Gila
be every
monster
week,
fighting
but
game where you go in your father's garage and kick those guys.
Make a
Help
game
me
where
overcome my fears.
you can make rat music videos.
Rat
Yeah.
music.
Rat music. Rats who make rap music. Guys, it's the end of the day.
Thanks for
Anyway,
rats.
moving on from that, wanted to jump into memory card, and I have the theme back. Did it play? There we go. That was a late intro. Sorry
There it
about
is.
that. The volume on the computer was wrong. We have 2 memory cards for you. I'm going to replay the theme as we go. Thank you to everyone who's been writing in. Remember, Memory Card is a segment we do on the show every week where we read your funny, sad, happy, whatever kind of favorite memories from your life with PlayStation and gaming in general. If you have a story you'd like to share, send it to beyond@ign.com with the subject line Memory Card. We have a ton of stories to read, and we're reading through them as often as we can, but please keep sending them because it is incredibly heartwarming to see everyone sharing these stories with us. I have 2 stories this week. The first is from Kelly. Kelly actually wrote in before E3. I loved the story. E3 happened, and I could not for the life of me find the email again, but luckily I was able to find it again. And Kelly wrote, "Hi Beyond. My husband and I were recently discussing what my PS2 meant to me and decided I should share it with you guys. Growing up, we didn't have a lot of money. My parents tried to keep up with the things that interested us, but my gaming systems were always a model or 2 behind all the other kids. My father died suddenly when I was 12, and at that Christmas, my mom used some of the life insurance money to give us the biggest Christmas we'd ever had since it was our first without Dad. I opened up a PS2, the first current system I'd ever own. I spent a lot of time lonely as my mom figured out her new life as a single mom and started dating, and my older siblings drifted apart in their new normals. That PS2 was a welcome distraction and a valued friend during a really hard time of my young life. I played that thing until it was so worn out it couldn't read discs anymore. Fast forward several years during which I'd stopped gaming altogether because I was too broke to buy a PS3. I met my husband, who at the time was on an Xbox 360. When it was time for next gen, I advocated heavily for a PS4. Xbox controllers never felt at home in my hands. While I don't play it a whole lot, every time I hold a controller or hear the familiar PlayStation tones, I'm reminded of the way that system touched my life. My husband doesn't know I submitted this, so if this makes it to the podcast and you happen to hear it, I love you, Josh. Kelly from Kansas City, Missouri.
Also, she's right, Josh. The Xbox 360 controller is corny.
That's the biggest takeaway from
That
this
was an
thing.
incredibly sweet
Yeah,
letter.
seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I got a little choked up there.
Yeah, Kelly, thank you so much for writing in that story. We really appreciate you sharing with us.
I love these. This is like a wonderful
These are
segment.
great. I love it. Moving on from that story, Brigitte, or Bridget, depending on, I guess, how you want to pronounce it, wrote in to Beyond and said, "Hi, Jonathan and crew. Thanks for so much amazing work on the show each week and for consistently bringing Kingdom Hearts all the attention it deserves. You're welcome. I have a memory card story to offer that, funny enough, actually involves a memory card. I moved from New York to Florida in 2004, which was a major transitional point in my life. Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
During that time, I found solace in playing GTA San Andreas at an age where my parents would probably kill me if they knew what I was playing. In any case, the game and PS2 belonged to my brother, so I always had to ask permission to play. More specifically, I could play all I want, but I was never allowed to use his memory card. That's right, my brother was so afraid that I could accidentally delete one of his save files that he'd prefer I not use a memory card at all. Being forced to consistently restart a new game file for San Andreas felt like I was stuck in a time loop, but I love that game so much I didn't want to give up on it. I tried to negotiate, but it was no use. However, one day I received a care package from his girlfriend at the time, who had no interest in video games, and to my surprise, there it was, my very own memory card.
What?
It sounds silly, but having my own red PS2 memory card was such a big moment for me. Not only did I finish San Andreas, but I got to dive headfirst into so many great titles that continue to drop on the PS2 or that I previously missed out on. Shout out to Final Fantasy X. I can confirm that my brother and I are super close, and he's much nicer now. Thanks for listening to the story, Brigitte or Bridget. Thank you so much again for writing in that story as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a sweet gift.
Absolutely love these stories coming in.
There are games that you can play the beginning of over and over again without a memory card, and I don't think like Final Fantasy X is one of them. Like that's about progress.
Yeah.
I mean, playing San Andreas without a memory card, you just turn cheats on, I guess, but there's only so much you can see there.
Mm-hmm.
But that is seriously like playing like a free to play version with no money.
Yeah, until
Yeah.
you hit a paywall over and
Yeah.
over, and that paywall
Yikes.
is time.
I know. It's
but
definitely
yeah,
a time loop.
thank you both so much for writing in. Those stories were fantastic, and we've had so many fantastic stories that we'll continue to read on the show. Remember, it is beyond@ign.com. You can write into with your stories, and the subject line is memory card. For those, I realize it may be a consideration. If you'd like to write in and be anonymous, please feel free to do so. Completely understand. We'll happily abide by that. But
You can make up a fake name, like in a video game.
Just
Yeah,
put your
that as well.
favorite PlayStation video game character name. And
and we'll take that. Yeah, that absolutely works as well. Moving on from that, as we wrap up, I don't have a name for this segment yet, as I mentioned last week, but a few people wrote in with suggestions for our weekly shout out. The two I got, and I want to pitch these to you. We can keep moving on or use them, and I'm going to find them to credit. The two we got were Above and Beyond, as in we're going above and beyond.
Oh,
and
that's
trying to
good.
congratulate, which I really, really like that one.
Yeah.
That was sent in to us by Bruce. The other was Upload, and I'm going to find that this is from Zach, and he actually had kind of like a meaning behind it. It wasn't just I picked a random game word. Upload, the idea was up in reference to the uplifting messages everyone can send, and load in reference to the amount of messages that can fill one unique individual social media feed. And I happen to like both of those.
Yeah.
So we'll see how we go. I really love both of those. For this week, I'm going to call it Above and Beyond. We'll see how we
I
continue.
like
with
Above
it.
and Beyond because it doesn't emphasize the load.
Yes. Yeah, that is a consideration to think about. Yeah. But for Above and Beyond, for the last few weeks, we've been shouting out people around the industry, some IGN friends and extended friends of the IGN family. We don't necessarily tell them ahead of time. So if you can, we would love to for you to go and send them a shout out on Twitter. Tell them how much you appreciate their work, whatever message you want to send about how great a job they're doing, whatever their job may be. This week in particular, I wanted to pick out, unless either of you guys have someone that comes immediately to mind.
No.
I had one person. This was actually someone I met at PAX West last year, and we were on the Kind of Funny All-Star Games. I'm messing up the panel, but we competed against each other in the first game, and I was ceremoniously knocked out in the first round. But staff writer for GameIndustry.biz, Reb Valentine. She's a really awesome writer, does really great work, and just a really awesome person in general, just from that one meeting we had. But she is at Duck, D-U-C-K, Valentine, spelled like it normally is, on Twitter. So go tell her that her work is awesome. She does amazing, great stuff over there at GamesIndustry.biz. Tell her she does an awesome job, and we'll continue to shout out people in the future. Before that, couple quick rapid fire questions, if you guys are cool.
Totally, yeah.
Couple cool. All right.
No, we're running on the clock here.
Yeah, we skipped our last meeting. I got some wine.
Yeah. We didn't actually, we did have to go to a meeting. We didn't just get up to go get wine.
No, we went to another meeting, but then Max and I had a meeting booked that was just us in a conference room writing, but I like being in here.
I appreciate you guys taking the time.
No, podcasting is my favorite thing in the world.
This is a highlight of my week, and I really thank you guys for doing it with me, and for everyone at home listening and watching.
I think the show rules, and I enjoy making it with you both.
It's a good time.
And also Lucy, whenever she has the stones to show up in here.
Right, Lucy?
Come on, Lucy.
Coward.
I really hope I have time to cut in her showing up. Anyway,
Coward.
first question actually comes from our weekend editor and a freelance writer for us, Joseph. He said, what does Sony's inevitable version of xCloud or Stadia look like, and think it has any room to compete given Microsoft and Google's much stronger backgrounds in cloud tech? I wanted to bring this up because we've talked a little bit about like the streaming future of it all. The main thing I wanted to bring up for this question was they have PlayStation Now. It is a relatively smaller audience, but that's something they could rely on. I don't think they have the infrastructure, though, that a company like Microsoft or Google has.
No, we just heard that news that Microsoft and Sony were sort of teaming up for the same architecture. I don't know what these words mean. I just say them.
It is a
It's like
memorandum of agreement understanding where they will maybe explore sharing technology.
It's like when they decide
So
to
you're
use.
saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
It's like when they decide on one USB port to use for 4 years or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, this
No
is the
one's ever
same-
done that, sadly, unfortunately.
They change
That's
it
true.
constantly, but the hearts are in the right place. But
Yeah, I have to bring 4 headphones with me everywhere now.
you can blame Apple for that one.
Yeah, they
that's
suck.
Yeah. But no, I think that, keep in mind that Sony they bought what is it, Gaikai?
Gaikai.
Geico.
That was
yeah.
in 20. I feel like I was in my first apartment in San Francisco. That was a long time ago. That was the thing. There was that weird period with Gaikai and OnLive.
2012.
2012.
Yeah,
For
that was a-
$380 million.
That was a cool minute ago.
Yep.
And I feel like they have been tinkering with that and trying things out. And I think that some of it is their experience with infrastructure. I think some of it is also just infrastructure itself. And I think they're in a very good spot to let somebody else fall on their own sword first. I don't know if that's Google. I don't know what that looks like. But I mean, I think we are underselling how much of a frontier cloud gaming stuff is. But also how fast these things do change. I remember not thinking that Netflix streaming would work. And that was in 2008 or 9, I want to say. And then suddenly
that was the side part of their business, was
Yeah.
the streaming service.
I've been thinking a lot about the sort of perspective of all of this stuff, and my thoughts on it so far have been sort of cynical and negative about it. And I started retooling that structure in my head a little bit and thinking that the benefits of cloud gaming is that it removes the obscenely high barrier of having to buy a high-end console or PC to get in the door. I think that is sort of like a economic gatekeeping that's happening right now for the average gamer to experience something like Mario, Zelda, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, and all that kind of stuff like that. If you take somebody who doesn't have a ton of money and they want to play those games and they want to be part of the conversation, we talked about movies and Netflix and all that stuff before. That's like you can jump on a free trial, see a $5 film, all that fun stuff. To play a video game, I think you even need you need a pretty good PC at minimum. You need a console. You can burn out the clock on an entire generation and buy a console used and cheap for a couple $100, but even that is a lot. And so I think getting to a point where you're using something you already have already, which is either a television or a mobile device, is ultimately a good thing. Because it brings more people into the fold and gets more people into the conversation and lets people play video games that they can't play right now. The weird thing that's happening too is that at the same time, Sony is selling an obscene amount of consoles. So that obviously doesn't seem to be a problem in their corner. But I do think that they're having a conversation somewhere of how do we get these games to these places where people don't necessarily have that $400, $500 barrier of entry. Yeah. I think with the PS5, it's probably going to be $499, right? But $399 maybe. $599.
It's going to be really interesting to see who goes first.
Yeah.
And I think whoever goes first, the other will do what they do.
Right.
Because I don't think you can come out at 100 above the other.
Yeah.
At launch and survive right now.
Yeah, and the cynical side of me with cloud gaming kicks in where I'm like, well, you don't own the product, and then your Wi-Fi doesn't work, and you can't play it and stuff like that. And so that's all we've all talked about that kind of stuff ad nauseum. You're a hardcore PlayStation audience. I think you're with us in understanding that you want games on your shelves, you want games stored on your system locally, you want stuff you can play when the Wi-Fi goes out, all that fun stuff. And so I think that they're going to dip a foot in that pond, but I do think that we're going to watch a couple of things crash, burn, and fizzle out before anybody major like Sony jumps in and watches it happen. I don't think that's really going to be a major progressive push for them heading into the next gen. I think they're going to watch what Microsoft's doing, and they're definitely going to watch what Stadia is doing. And I think in the same way OnLive was sort of ahead of the time, but also something that's not necessarily part of the big structure anymore, they're going to watch and see what happens. On the flip side, you have Nintendo Switch. Yeah. You can play on an airplane without any Wi-Fi. And so people got really excited that The Witcher 3 is coming to that. And I think for a lot of people, you'd be like, why would you even play that there? But there's the Switch Mini leaks that look exactly like a PSP. Things are incredibly weirdly cyclical, but I think it all comes down to accessibility and ownership. And so I think they're going to take a wait and see approach. I kind of hope they do because I'm not necessarily ready for an all streaming future.
I think we're a ways off from that.
Yeah. I think it's still going to be pretty
mo-
physical focused.
Movies still come out on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Movies still come out on DVD.
I know. Well,
They announced a Wii game at E3 this year.
yeah.
It happens. Like things take a minute to catch up. We're kind of at the cutting edge here.
Yeah, but like I said, I am sympathetic of the people who want to play video games that can't because it takes $300, $400, $500 to do that.
Yep, absolutely.
So I think there's something there for them. I don't think that's the only way I want to play God of War 2.
Sure. Yeah. Speaking of having to spend more money to play different types of games, a user wrote in asking about they just bought a PSVR. By the way, all these questions came from Twitter. I reached out for questions, so I don't necessarily have names for everyone. Like Wethy182, who asked, I finally got a PSVR with Blood and Truth and RE7. What else do I need? I would like 2 recommendations from each of you, if not just one.
We talked about it earlier, but Arkham VR is like a really fun, really cheap couple-hour experience that makes you feel like Batman. No, it's got some really interesting stuff. The sort of combat detective mode stuff is fun. There's a moment in the game where you look in the mirror and you can't help but do goofy nonsense, which just totally breaks character for Batman, but I love it.
Oh yeah, it's Batman's face, and then you can just bring up his hands and go like crazy with them.
And you basically get very Adam West Batman, where he's doing
absolutely.
the Bat-2C and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a fun time.
Max, what about you?
Super Hot's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Did you say one from each of us?
1 or 2.
2. God, what's the other one I always go to? Job Simulator is very funny. I would say check out all the free stuff and demos because there's a surprising amount of those for that.
Yeah.
There's one called. It's very weird. It's kind of like a Robloxy type of thing. I talked about it where I hung out with some child on there and we tried to open a fast food restaurant in VR. It was really weird. VR chat? No.
Oh, is that on PSVR though?
No, it's a different one.
Yeah.
It's something I forget what it's called.
But yeah, the VR chat is a big thing for the other.
There's some weird kind of free to play stuff you can poke around
on
with.
PSVR. Yeah.
It's very cool. There's also like a bunch of corny video apps where you can like watch a hippopotamus go to the bathroom or like fly around in the Andes or whatever. Like whatever those stupid GoPro videos.
Yeah, I'm totally forgetting the name of it. It's one of my favorite PSVR games, and I'm blanking because it's been a long week and it's only Tuesday.
I would say Astrobot.
Yeah.
Beat Saber.
Yep.
Moss.
Moss is fantastic.
Tetris.
Tetris
Effect.
Tetris Effect. If you don't have that, you can play it without VR, but play it.
Maybe you guys
I
can
think
help me
there's
with this.
also demo for that too.
It's like a low poly third person action platforming game where you play as like a dancer.
Oh, is
who
that?
has consistent flashbacks about like
Unbound?
a violent family upbringing.
Okay, yeah.
That game rules.
I didn't know that was in VR.
Yeah, that's on PSVR. They patched that.
Sweet.
And it's really cool in VR.
Yeah.
Check out Unbound.
Go on.
Thank you for finding that name.
Go on the PlayStation Store and just search by price, free to whatever, and grab all the free stuff and just mess around. Like just poke around, see what's happening, and get used to it.
Absolutely. Moving on from that, Leonardo asked, "How you folks doing? Drinking enough water? Any small life goals you've accomplished recently?"
No and no. I don't know. I was thinking about this. We've both been traveling a lot. We're both kind of head down on doing Comic-Con planning, which is they've got us writing that entire like live show, which is all of the. Hey everybody, welcome back to IGN Live at San Diego Comic-Con 2019. I'm here with the cast of blah 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 blah, and we're here to sit down and talk about such and such.
Yeah, I guess I'm proud of that. You know, we've gotten pretty good at that. That's been fun. I thought I was gonna get like fat again since I became a dad and traveled more and got out of like my routine, but I've mostly been able to hold that steady. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
You know, nothing wrong with being that way, but I was that way for a while, and I don't want to be that way again. So I'm gonna keep doing what I got to do. But I've still been eating a lot of pizza.
Yeah,
I'm not drinking enough water.
Pizzas and bagels. I'm definitely not. I really should. I have like those. Get yourself like one of those big stainless steel water bottles or something, which I left at my desk, and I'm parched.
If you're not a water person, these things. I think it's a Hydro Flask. That's just one brand name. There's also like, I don't know. There's another name for them.
Steel canteen.
They're just like steel canteen thing. If
Go on Amazon and
trying to drink more water.
Bring it to work and leave it there, and get another one for home, and just fill them up constantly.
Fill it with ice.
Drink a lot.
Fill it with ice, and then fill it with water.
I don't ever put ice in mine.
You don't put ice in yours?
No, they stay cold forever.
Yeah,
if
you
I'm
put ice
putting
in
cold
there.
water.
I will go on a trip and I'll get back and there'll still be ice in my canteen. It's amazing.
Probably shouldn't
That's
drink that
weird.
water.
Don't drink that
very
old
cool.
water like a mule.
What? It's sealed up. It's not like
Who knows
it's
what
not like
happened in
animals coming in and taking ice baths in my water.
Actually, I
it's
don't
like
think it's-
Schrodinger's water. You don't know if it's in there or not.
I don't know a lot about nature, but I think if you left sealed water in a compartment for a long time and came back, there'd be organisms in it.
There's organisms in all the water.
No, I'd be like sea monkey or like visible.
What do you think is it?
Anyway, in terms of small life goals, I have been really upset at myself for not writing more outside of work, where I write. And I wrote 5 pages of a story I'm working on.
That's
last
awesome.
night.
Hell yeah.
So happy about that.
I just recently read the Stephen King on writing book.
Oh,
which
yeah.
For anybody,
I have it. I haven't read it.
I somehow managed. I went on vacation and I read like a ton. I just burned through a bunch of books and it was a good time. And I managed to finish that book in literally a day, which was a weird thing for me because I always feel like I'm too slow at reading books. But I like woke up at 5:36 in the morning and then finished it at exactly the stroke of midnight, which was a fun feeling. But that's if you've ever been curious about how to get started on writing or whatever, that's a great read.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want to know if you're old or not, it's when you get up at 5:30 or 6 in the morning on vacation.
That's a fun surprise.
Yeah, I do that constantly. I'm like, it's Saturdays here. It's time to wake up at 5:30 in the morning, get the coffee going.
Oh, yeah. I've now enjoyed waking up early on weekends, so I have time and can, like, take it easy, have a nice, quiet morning. It's wonderful.
I was pumped to find out that the gym I go to now has classes that start at 5:45 and end at 6:45.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I can be home just as my wife and kid wake up. And I get my workout in. And I woke up at like 5:10 the other day and I put my workout outfit on. I was like, I did it. I'm up. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird mixture of like, yay, I'm doing it. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Yay, why?
Exactly.
Last but not least, just because we're running a little bit late on time, it's the end of the day, our own Ronnie asked, what is the best PlayStation game name? My vote is Ape Escape.
That's a really good one.
The name of
Tokyo Jungle is a great
It's a really
video
solid
game
one.
name.
Yeah.
Bloodborne is just the fucking best. That is a great name for it.
Crash Bandicoot.
That's
Yeah.
really good too.
What an insane thing to call a thing. Why would you name it that? Also, I want to point out that Metal Gear Solid is kind of the same naming convention as like Spyro the Dragon or Crash Bandicoot. It's like the man's name is Solid
Echo
Snake.
the Dolphin.
Yeah, but you're like, that's like
You think it must be something totally different.
Yep.
yeah,
Then
no,
the
that's
dude.
like
Yeah.
Go-Kart Gary.
Parappa the Rapper.
Metal Gear Solid. Anyway, that's a thing that I thought was funny a long time ago.
Those are some
Long,
very
long
good
name.
names.
My vote would be Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep.
Oh, wait. Here's the worst.
How dare
The
you.
worst game name I could somehow remember is Artanelico Koga, the Nell of RCL, which I memorized because what are most of those words?
We did that at the Live Beyond last year. We did the worst name of 2018 award.
yeah,
and it
yeah.
was basically things like that
Yeah.
that had semicolons in the middle of 3
Right.
different words.
What's the worst Kingdom Hearts game name?
I mean, 358 over 2 days is
Probably.
That's that or Recoded. Just
What are
'cause-
the one? What's the one that uses like a wingding? It's like a symbol that you don't know the name of. It's like a dead.
Oh, that's the mobile game, Kingdom Hearts Key. It's
Yes.
had multiple names, but yeah,
Right.
the symbol is key.
Where you can't
basically.
pronounce it out loud.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has been Beyond episode 598. Thank you all so much for listening or watching. As I mentioned, my name is Jonathan Dormish. I was joined by Brian. Where can people find you outside of the show?
You can find me at Agent Bizzle on Instagram. I'm at Brian Altano, and then Max and I are working on Up at Noon stuff, so that show's coming back soon. In the meantime, go watch our alligator video.
Yes.
Go watch the alligator video.
was
It's a good
great.
time.
It's really
See
good.
why we went to Florida. We don't know still for ourselves.
We didn't
but-
tweet that out yet, did we?
Did we? I don't remember.
It's been a long
I've
time.
watched it, and it's
It's a good
great.
time.
Thank you.
Max, where can people find you besides the alligator video, which they should watch?
Just Max Scoville on Twitter, Max Scoville on Instagram. I've been trying to be just on social media less in general, but it's nice to be back making podcasts with you guys. So
Yeah,
Here
glad
we
to have you back. And I am at JM Dornbush on Twitter and Instagram. And if you can, of course, read my Kindle singles under my numerous pen names. Just go find one. You'll probably see mine. Otherwise, this has been Beyond episode 598. Beyond is live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific at beyond.ign.com, youtube.com/IGNBeyond, and your favorite podcast services around the world. Thank you so much for listening or watching or consuming the show, however you do. And as always, Beyond.
Hey,
Beyond.
are we doing anything special for Prime Day? Are we going to celebrate that special day of the summer anytime? Are we going to do anything?
We're going to have a 24/7 marathon episode of Beyond,
We're just going to go on Amazon.
where we just
buy-
look at...
Wow, 2 pounds of red vines, only $14.
A bathtub full of horse feed, $6.50. Today's the day. Tennis ball.
I'm just going to use this Prime Day to reflect on all the deals that I'm grateful for.
It's very kind of you, Max.
Beyond.
Beyond.